Alright guys, thought this was actually really interesting, and I wanted to talk about this because of course this is me, New Media. I am part of New Media. Whether it be commentating online, giving reviews, leaking things, like movies, test screening leaks, whatever. This YouTube sphere, this is New Media. And so when you get Tim Walz's daughter coming out and being like, hey, New Media actually has a responsibility to not expose anything, in this instance, expose fraud. I'm like, what? Why? Why does New Media have a responsibility to not expose fraud? Now, this is obviously to do with Minnesota and the Somali fraud scheme that's happening there. It's not just Somalians, it is everyone. Now, I'm not going to get too into that side of things here. I've got a politics channel. You can go and look at my thoughts over there on that. But I'm talking specifically about the New Media aspect, because people don't watch the news anymore. People don't watch TV anymore. Barely anyone watches cable. Most people watch individuals like me, right? Like me, not specifically me, but this is the new sphere. Because people can sit down with a microphone and a camera, and as long as they're authentic, people will buy into what they say. Because that's what people have been screaming out for, authenticity. And in this instance, this is all referencing Nick Shirley. Now, Nick Shirley did a video, if you don't know, he did a video on the Somalian fraud schemes in Minnesota. It was quite a good video. I watched it. I thought it was a really good video, actually. And actually, the props doesn't go to Nick Shirley. He merely platformed it. It was the research by an elderly gentleman that was in that video. It's great work, genuinely. And because of that video, that then spawned a whole lot of investigations. And that's right. That's journalism. News don't do journalism anymore, do they? They just say, you're telling us this? Okay, no worries then. That's fine. This happens in the UK as well. The news goes to ask people, well, is this true? The government or whoever it is, I don't know, like someone who's accused of committing fraud will go, no, that's not true. And they'll go, oh, okay then, case closed, no worries. There's no investigative work anymore. There's no journalism. It's actually, in fairness, same with what I do here on YouTube in the movie sphere, right? I have sources. I talk to sources. I reveal bits and pieces. And I know if you're just drifting across this video, you probably go, this guy's a clown, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I have leaked a hell of a lot of stuff. Most recently was the Voltron situation, which I actually had Amazon contact me to tell me to take the video down, which is comical because, one, I don't have to, but two, it also validates that the leaks were completely legit, which is, thanks for that, Amazon. Brilliant. But people don't do that anymore, right? Like, Hollywood Reporter doesn't do that. Deadline doesn't do that. They just listen to what the studio tells them to do and goes, oh, okay, well, we'll just say that then. It's like, well, you should actively do some research. You should do some journalism, right? If something's shaping up to be pretty bad, you should talk about it. Not necessarily just to denigrate it, but because that's journalism. So again, like I said, this isn't from a political angle. I have a politics channel. You can find it linked, I don't know, it might be down below. It doesn't really matter. You might want to check it out, you might not. I'm not here to promote that, basically. That does fine by itself, really. So, but let's take a look, shall we? Because again, I just found this really interesting. I wanted to talk about it. So Tim Walz's daughter is like, actually, New Media shouldn't be exposing fraud. You're like, why? What possible reason could you give for not exposing fraud? So Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz's daughter, Hope Walz, said in a recent interview that the New Media bears an ethical responsibility because of its relatability and accessibility. In her sit-down on the 1 Hour Detours podcast with John O'Sullivan, Hope Walz said that people see themselves in content creators, like Nick Shirley, and are more inclined to trust them than traditional journalists. Yes, because we're authentic. Which is literally what I just said, right? Like, that is the case. And that's why people like what we do here, on platforms such as this. So, I mean, that's baffling in and unto itself, isn't it? That you would just come out and be like, I mean, okay, so you're validating why you understand why people like new media. And then her comments came in response to reporting from Nick Shirley, whose status as a journalist Waltz later questions. Well, he's done more journalism than most journalists have done, so you can shut up. In his 42-minute documentary posted on X and YouTube, Shirley alleged that several Minnesota daycares received millions of taxpayers' dollars while providing no services. I mean, you can see that. And subsequently, there has been investigations and arrests. So what he said was true. Demonstrably, that has panned out, right? Like, that has actually panned out. He platformed someone doing research. It went round, highlighted it. Investigations have happened, and people have now subsequently, there has been some busts, as it were. So that's true. It's not like an alleged thing. That is true. That is true. So Waltz admits that there's enough truth to the fraud claim, like things. She says that Trump and his supporters have twisted and amplified the issue for their own benefit. Doesn't matter. It's for everyone's benefit. You shouldn't be claiming fraud. This is just absurd. No one should be pro-fraud and pro-tax dollars just being spaffed up the wall on, like, nonsense and people that, don't have a right to your tax dollars. I mean, that shouldn't be controversial. Your tax dollars should be spent on people that actually need it. Because, I might be right-leaning, obviously, but I'm not heartless. And you shouldn't allow people to funnel your tax money away when they don't need it and it's a grift, because it leaves less in the pot for people that really do need it. Right? Like veterans that have fought for your country, for instance. Homeless people through no fault of their own. Disabled people that were born paraplegic and literally don't deserve to be given a bad hand. And realistically deserve a bit of charity, I guess, in a humane, civilised Western country. So, no, we shouldn't be pro foreigners stealing money. Like, that's weird. It's weird that people would be pro that. So now, as her father and Somali community in Minnesota are under increased scrutiny, Waltz... I mean, it's weird that there is a Somali community in Minnesota, quite frankly, but okay. Waltz says that Shirley's reporting was unethical. No, it wasn't. You can't just go and do this to people. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. So the main issue, as she presents it, is not that Shirley made factual errors. The problem, she argues, is not whether the facts are true, but whether reporting them is responsible. What? Reporting the truth, in her estimation, should be filtered through the consequences of making it public and who is qualified to do so. That is retarded. Waltz said that they want to make Shirley into the next Charlie Kirk. No, they don't. Claiming that he exists in the same right-wing media ecosystem. No, he doesn't. Going further, she compared the audience for his content to those who question some preventative medical treatments. They're not going to believe anyone but the least qualified people, it seems. Adding that Shirley fit the bill. Amazing. So you can go around, prove things to be completely true, subsequent arrests and things like that, and then just be like, but actually, it's bad because he did it. That is utter nonsense. So just what qualifies an individual to expose fraud and who should confer that authority wasn't addressed. O'Sullivan did say, the aesthetic of the person on their phone, it feels more trustworthy than the news to some people. But it is. Because they are just a person. Like, media corporations do have a bias and they do have funding and they can just be propaganda arms. And again, remember, this is just from a place of new media. That's exactly the same as what I do. Someone, like, you go to a mainstream media article and you read their review of something, 9 times out of 10, it isn't going to be brutally honest. It just isn't. Because they want access. That's just a fact. So, is someone more trustworthy when they're not affiliated to anything and have nothing to gain from it because their audience actively pays them, rather than someone who is doing it to gain access to things? I mean, who's more trustworthy? That's just a fact. So bizarre. Super strange. So new media journalists may have found a way to create a sense of immediacy and authenticity by becoming the person on their phone. But if the facts are sound, the aesthetic doesn't make the reporting any more or less legitimate, which is true. So when asked what frustrates her about legacy media, Waltz didn't hold back. Her comments also shed more light on how she feels about new media journalists. So she said, I get really frustrated on this obsession with fairness. Like, oh, we have to play both sides. And I'm like, well, One side is completely crazy and living in delusion. I think it's those that don't know what a woman is, but alright. And one side is like reasonable and living in fact. Like, you don't play both sides, you report the facts. But that is what Shirley did. I mean, that is literally what Shirley did. So that's mental, isn't it? This woman's mental. This girl is mental. Like that. What? There you go. It is interesting. And this all comes down to control. You know, new media and the way technology spreads and things like that is outside of state control by and large. That's why they hate it. They hate it because they can't control it. They're trying to regulate it. That's not going to work either. The age of sort of propagandizing your nation is kind of over, to be honest. That's why new media is so good. Anyway, I wanted to cover this because, again, I am part of this new media sphere. And so when someone questions it and is like, oh, well, they've got a responsibility to not expose fraud. Fuck off, you clown. You're a clown. So there you go. Not much else to say. Again, I'm not trying to be super political in this. I would have covered this. If I wanted to be, I would have covered it on the politics channel. This is mainly from the new media angle. And it's interesting. Right? Companies hate new media. It's the same with studios. They hate new media. They absolutely despise it. We know that. People that work for it that have come out and been like, yeah, they hate you guys. So yeah, you should. You should, because we're not just going to go, yep, it's absolutely fine, yep, off, like a clapping seal. It's nonsense. Anyway, leave your thoughts down below. Bye now.